With every sorrowful scene, especially in the beginning of the show, after news of Laura's body is discovered, there is a certain extreme discomfort which leaks out that sometimes takes on a strangely ridiculous flavor that's lurking just behind the expressions of grief over Laura Palmer's murder. For Laura's mother, it could be characterized as hysteria, which was classically referred to as a sort of mania mixed with deep sadness, anger, and fear that emanates from or is closely related to disturbances of the womb. The death of Laura Palmer, it seems, has only just begun, in a sense, as the news of her death ripples throughout the town. As the audience, we are faced with some very intense and uncomfortable moments right from the beginning, which hammer home the true impact death really has on people for extended periods of time, for months, for years, for an entire lifetime. This isn't the sort of thing that you see on television typically. Most portrayals on TV and film don't dare go beyond the surface when it comes to death before running along to the next element. Twin Peaks holds us there, and it doesn't let us off the hook very easily. Death is the catalyst which paradoxically brings us a very real sense of depth and humanity in the characters of this story, which is quite unusual and refreshing for a television show to do. Typically, institutionalized corporate TV adopts a sort of sanitized and clinical view of death, where the aftermath of which is quickly washed away and forgotten in order to make way for the next series of events. If David Lynch is a world builder, as he describes himself in his work, then what is the point of creating a world that is not compelling, or a world that we don't explore in as deep a way as we can, despite what we might find? No wonder Twin Peaks has such a cult following. How often is anything so compelling that feels so real and soulful ever put on television in the first place? Hardly ever. David Lynch on TV is like bringing a fully functioning time machine to an elementary school science fair. That's what it feels like to me. One of the highest levels of artistic expression that television has ever experienced, and at the time, most had no idea what to do with it. Although there were a lot of people with the sense that this is, we all had, a lot of us had a sense like this is next level, right? As if somebody snuck into, somebody snuck a Rodin sculpture into the arts and crafts fair at your local town, and nobody even noticed except maybe a few people. Now, already by episode 2 of the first season, Twin Peaks makes some very strong statements, the kind that you just don't see with normal TV shows. Also in episode 2, there's perhaps the first real esoteric scene in the hospital with the one-armed man exiting the elevator. He stops and looks in Hawk's direction for a moment before turning to his right and making his way down the long corridor. Deputy Hawk catches a glimpse of the one-armed man in the safety mirror. He excuses himself and goes over to take a closer look. Hawk watches the one-armed man walk down the hallway. Then he enters a room filled with blue light. No words are exchanged. At this point, so early in the show, we don't know who Philip Gerard is, but there is something inherently suspicious, especially when it comes to a man with one arm. And of course, this was influenced, of course, by that television show from the 60s, The Fugitive, which is a great show. I used to watch it in reruns. Now, a one-armed man wearing red with seemingly no good reason to be in a hospital in the first place, entering a restricted area illuminated in blue light, is an unconscious initiation into some sort of mystery. We're not sure what we're looking at here. We're not sure why, but we know we're given this sense that there's more than meets the eye here. Hawk continues toward the room with the blue light as the door remains open for him. The unconscious signal here provides some significant foreshadowing that Mike is indeed one who passes between worlds. It's only appropriate that Deputy Hawk, given his deep connection with the realm of spirit, should be the one to cross the threshold of this room, taking a brief glimpse into what lies beyond. Of course, Hawk only peers into the room. He cannot go any further before turning around as the door closes behind him automatically. On the wall here, we are shown the placard for room 203, oxygen storage, or life, on top of room 205 for the morgue, which, of course, is death. It's a rather odd combination, it seems, one representing the realm of the living, the other pointing to the realm of the dead. The sound of another door closes just as Hawk enters the threshold of the blue room, but of course we aren't shown which room the one-armed man is entering. Did he enter the oxygen storage room, or did he enter the morgue? This subtle cue is a very early indicator that things in Twin Peaks are definitely not what they seem. So early on in the show, we've been unconsciously given a vague glimpse between two worlds. And it's worth mentioning that the room numbers are completely different between the wide shot and the close-up shot, by the way. The room numbers are 231 and 241 respectively in the wide shot, whereas the tight shot shows rooms 203 and 205, which aren't even aligned in the same way. Now, is this just a production mistake, or perhaps is this intentional in some way? Who knows? Alternatively, was this a mistake done on purpose for no real reason at all? Sometimes we can forget that meaning itself can be done away with entirely, just as a way to wind people up and watch them go nuts. Now, just for fun, doing a little amateur gematria here, 231 adds up to 6, and 241 adds up to 7. So if the Pixies were right, then maybe the devil really is 6 and God is 7. Of course, the close-up shot gives us a 5 and a 7, which are also significant, not to mention what appears to be a hyperbaric chamber in this shot as well. I don't have any theories about the numbers, but maybe someone else can offer a fun or interesting interpretation here. Now, my understanding about this entire scene, about the blue room and Philip Gerard in red, it was shot as kind of a standalone scene, as sort of definitely inspired by the Fugitive, but there wasn't any plan to take it any further. But then the scene kind of gave life to some inspiration of its own, and then Philip Gerard's character and, of course, Mike's character was developed from that point.